The Last of Us is out now. 10 years after the fact on PS3,
Amazing.
I guess.
We made it.
It's out on PC for the very first time. It is Oh no! Matthew just eradicated me.
So I've got to do some production stuff myself. There you go.
It's out now on PC. It is the Part 1 remake, remaster. I don't know, remaster that came out on PS5. Wait, was it this year or last year?
It was last year. I think it was last year.
Okay. So this is that version. So it is the spruced up, looks much better. And it does. Like it really does look a lot better than the original and the PS4 remaster. And it is the first game, which is kind of cool given that we've just finished the series on HBO, which I thought was fantastic.
That timing, what a weird coincidence.
Yeah, strange. Almost like these marketing things all lined up. And the series is really good, really captured the feel of the first game. And I think a lot of people, if you've never played The Last of Us, well, the first part ever, because you never owned a PlayStation console, then you've been waiting for this on PC. Likewise, if you just wanted to play it with like the highest fidelity possible, PC would probably be the place to play, comparable to PS5. Unfortunately, this game is in it's a mess currently. It's an actual mess. It's probably one of the worst PlayStation ports that have come out yet. Like, I know that that honor, I guess, used to exist on the shoulders of Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. Even that, like, when that came out on PC, it was like messy, but it wasn't awful.
Yeah, it was still playable.
You could play, like, you could definitely have a good time with it. It just had some problems that were quite annoying. I'm just watching this gameplay, and this dude is flying through. Yeah.
Oh my god!
But
it's so accurate.
But since then, they've improved like significantly. Like Returnal was fantastic. What was the other one that came out recently? Oh, Uncharted, Legacy of Thieves, not Legacy of Thieves. Yeah, whatever. The one, that collection name always bugs me because it's like almost similar to one of the actual game names.
Yeah.
That one wasn't too bad. Like, it was mostly, it had some like control issues, but for the most part was like pretty decent. God of War has been a great port.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing to see this one, which is seemingly mostly led by Naughty Dog. I know a lot of people like bagged on a studio called Iron Galaxy who helped out with the Uncharted collection and were notoriously the devs behind the PC port of Arkham Knight back in the day. But like, from what I can tell and from what I've heard from like the CEO, they had a very small part to play on this. So it explains why Naughty Dog is tweeting about, performance patches and this and that they took the lead on this. And yeah, it's not good. It just doesn't run well on PC. It especially does not run well if you have anything lower than 12 gigabytes of VRAM on your GPU, because it just consumes VRAM like nobody's business. And even when you have 12, like I do on a 3080 Ti, like you can't run the game full tilt because it's too much VRAM to go. So yeah, you are playing a reduced experience even on some of the best PC hardware out there right now. And unless you've got like a 4090 or a 4080, you are not like maxing this game out.
Which is it's bizarre.
No, it's crazy to me. It's just, and 8 gigs of VRAM, yeah, it's getting low for today's standards, but we forget that a 3070 is 8 gigs of VRAM, and anything lower is usually 8 gigs of VRAM, and like those are the most popular cards out today.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is it's not a matter of, you can't run this game at full tilt. It's, you can't even run this game at high settings. And when you drop the game settings to medium, especially things like textures and texture filtering, it looks like remarkably different to what it does on PS5. Like, it looks way worse. I don't know if that setting's just not working correctly, but the jump between high and medium is huge in terms of quality. Yeah. And that's the only way you can play on a card like a 3070, because if you exceed those VRAM limitations right now, in a lot of games, sometimes you get away with that actually, no problem. Here, you just get crazy stuttering and more often than not, just straight up crashes. It just refuses to do, it's like you go over that limits. It's like, no, you can't. But it's also like super confusing because it says it's reserving, at least on my end, reserving like 2 gigs out of my 12 for something in the OS. Like, what is it doing? I don't actually know. Like, there's some like confusing aspects to this port that just don't really make sense in terms of like performance and how its settings work. So it's just a bummer. So like on my hardware, it ran fine for the most part. I did notice that it was hammering my CPU a lot. Like I would stand in at the sort of like the start of the game, just after the game's opening prologue thing. You meet with Tess and you're like sort of walking in the streets of that town you start at.
Yeah.
And it starts you in an alleyway. So the game, like after the cutscene, just starts there and nothing's happening. There's no enemies, there's no combat, there's no one around you really.
Yeah.
My CPU was sitting at 90% utilization on every single
like,
core.
What is going on here?
And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like, and then afterwards, like you'd walk, go out on to the street where there's a bit more logic, like things are moving, 100%, boom. That means it's just CPU limited, like, and it's like I'm running this thing at 1440p. Nothing's really happening that's really complex. Like what happens when I get into combat and things actually are complex and the CPU utilization is bad. Like it's good that it uses all of your cores, but it's using them all pretty evenly and all pretty like hard all of the time. Like I never saw things drop below like 70, which is weird for a game. So by comparison, when I was playing Spider-Man, that thing never went above like 40%. And that's an open world where you're like zipping around.
And there's a lot happening, yeah.
So much happening in the open world. And so, bit of a bummer. I know they are addressing it, but I would say if you are now in the market to play this game, if you have a 3080 Ti or higher, you could probably get away with acceptable performance at least on a 3080 Ti if you're not looking at 4K. If you're at 4K, you need a 4080 or 4090. No question.
Yeah.
Like right now to play this game. No question. So, yeah. And if you're in the weird position of deciding whether to buy a PS5 or build a PC to play this game, just play PS5 right now.
PS5.
Like, it is much cheaper. And
yeah, but I mean, look, you would know because you've seen it on both now, but the game does look good on PS5. I mean, it runs.
It does. It looks phenomenal on PS5, yeah. And the performance mode, like, there's very few compromises there. So the compromises on PC are just insane, which it shouldn't be. When Spider-Man came out, like Miles Morales and stuff, that it ran beautifully on PC and it looked the part, like it looked like a PC port. It was great.
Yeah.
But it ran also just on a wide variety of PC. I mean, Spider-Man Remastered, you can get that thing running at pretty good visual settings and acceptable performance on a Steam Deck.
Yo. What more do you
just
want?
Saying.
And the Last of Us Part 1 is still obviously having issues on Steam Deck as well.
Oh yeah, that thing is fucking unplayable in Steam Deck. I don't use that as a bar, like, because Returnal's unplayable on the Steam Deck as well. Like it straight up doesn't work. Well, no, it is unplayable. Like I was going to say, it works at 30 FPS, but it actually doesn't because it dips into 20s quite regularly.
Yeah.
And like that game at 30 is still not acceptable. I don't think.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like Returnal's port otherwise on PC works really, really well. I think it delivers on that. This just doesn't. And for bizarre reasons, it just doesn't make sense. So yeah. It's unfortunate, but I'm sure it will get fixed. Like, I'm pretty sure it will get fixed, and this will be like a learning experience, I guess, for Naughty Dog who want to put more things out day and date on PC. But it's just, it's disappointing from a studio that is so renowned for its technical prowess, like getting. I guess this just shows they're inexperienced with PC development, which is totally
which is to be expected.
It makes sense.
I was going to say it's probably just it is disappointing that a PlayStation game came out in the States, because you don't expect that. Like,
no,
you
not
really
at all.
don't.
Not from them.
No.
Yeah, and
Not like
you
this.
know, if they're inexperienced with PC development, this is sort of the reason that Sony bought companies like Nixie's, you know, like to help out and to be like, this is how you should do things, you know. So if Nixie's are the ones that are helping out, you know, which was the last one they did? They did Horizon. I don't know. They did one of them, and apparently they're working on Ratchet and Clank. That's the rumor. But like, don't make them exclusive to one game. They should be sharing knowledge of how to get these things out to all the studios that are deving for PC. Like, it makes no sense to have bought a company like Nixie's when one of your 5 ports is good because they're only working on one of them. You know what I mean? So, just a weird strategy in my view.
Hate to see it. Last of Us Part 1, good game, but not
great game.
Not a great
just
port.
Bad PC port. It's a bummer. And I know a few people have been like super keen to actually play this game for the first time, and now they're just like, well, I've got a 3070, which is a mid-range card, and it looks like ass.
I've loved seeing some of the memes, all the low-res versions of Joel and Ellie.
Oh god, some of them are bad.
looks like something out of, do you remember that game Tearaway?
Yes, yeah. They're like paper layered
it's like
on
Joel's
on
made out of
everything.
paper.
It looks quite bad.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I would love for someone to do like a video comparison of like the medium settings to PS5, because I think there's such a stark difference even between those two, and it just doesn't make sense because like a card that is mid-tier like a 3070 is pretty much like you should be going toe to toe with something what a PS4 or PS5 can do.
Yeah.
And just the gulf in quality between the two is just insane.
Crazy.
So, yeah.